Welcome back, everybody. Today we are discussing Severance Episode 6. Before we overthink the healthy work-life balance, I just want to give a big shout out to the people that show up for each video. I see your comments, I feel your support, I feel your love. We are fangirling over a show in its off-season on a platform that is oddly enough still not as popular as many of the others. The community for the show is intimate, and before the rest of the world knows how great this show is, or that it even exists, I'm glad that we can be here talking about it together. But let's get started on episode 6, titled Hide and Seek. We open to Miss Cobel in white fiddling with a necklace while the rudimentary and possibly handmade dolls of Kier and Imogen sit on her pillow. The necklace is the Lumon implant, and if you recall from last episode, Mr. Grainer gave this to her as a gift while he analyzes the data on, the server or whatever. This was Petey's implant. Her putting this on feels somewhat holy, like wearing a cross under your clothes to remind you that Jesus loves you. She is doing something that could go very wrong for her, and I think she needs just a little more reassurance, a little close to the chest.
I would be careful. Upstairs wouldn't look kindly on this.
The reason we see Kier while she reflects on this moment is to let us know where her mind is. She is trying to reassure herself that all of this is for the greater good that she knows that Kier seeks. It's worth risking your own status and bending the rules if it means you protect the ones you love. She must have courage to stand before the board and tell them someone has successfully been reintegrated. Even if they continue to deny it, she knows what reality is and what must be done.
The board is conveying pretty strongly that the severance procedure is provenly irreversible,
Yes.
and that this knowledge should be a given for a person managing a severed floor.
I also want to point out this terribly cold bedroom. It is barren, with cool industrial lighting and the entire scene being shot through this clear glass meant to mimic prison bars. It's showing her closed off from the rest of the world or the rest of the warmth of an actual home, imprisoned by the only thing that holds any amount of reverence in this room, and that is the 9 principles hanging above her bed. The cinder block walls and curved headrest also make me think that this is a hospital. Whatever this is, and it isn't a home setting, so it's curious that it is in her home. Could this be something that she was in before or something from her childhood, and this is why she enjoys this, is because it's familiar to her? Then we see her getting a call from Mr. Grainer.
Ours. I think it's traceable to Reghabi.
Reghabi.
Yeah.
This is the first mention of this character, and it affirms that someone in the company is working against Lumon. It starts building the tension that Miss Cobel understands the real threat she faces, and she goes to seek guidance at her Kier shrine. She worships him like a holy figure. The candles, the pictures, the painted, printed notes, and whatever this glowing crystal is above her head, it's a shrine. Also, she is risking her life with this candle placement. I just want to point that out.
Tame in me the tempers for, that I may serve thee evermore.
While she finds comfort in this little prayer, which ends with the goal of being touched by this divine entity, we see a bunch of different things that show the depth of this world. This was a quick and effective world-building moment that introduces us to her being born in 1944, although we'll discuss a little bit about that in a few seconds here. The Myrtle Egan School for Girls being founded in 1952. She was either the first class to go through the program or one of the first. Myrtle was the 3rd CEO of Lumon, founded this school 8 years before her own death. So Miss Cobel could have met her as a young girl. The ME in the logo also feels intended, like it's meant to empower the individual, which could have some interesting depth about how this school empowers and for what purpose they are empowering, and again, how they are empowering. We see this jester mask that is some weird felt paper mache looking thing, then this Lumon Industries pharmaceutical container from who knows how long ago. It says Kier PE, which isn't an actual state, but for the life of me, I'm seeing this as Pennsylvania or some other kind of northeast area, right? We then see this goat mask with the full shot and a little bit of the other 2 masks as well. A diploma for finishing the school. Well, hold on. I thought that's what it was at first, but I adjusted the color a little bit and found that this is the Mealtime Condiment Award. Or something. I'm really not sure what to make of this, but perhaps it's saying that she was given an award for mealtime seasoning or flavoring, like it's the best combination of 11 herbs and spices. I have no clue. I'm also reminded that her name is not Charlotte, like I thought it was a second ago. Her name is Harmony. We know this. So who is Charlotte? After some digging, I found that nobody knows. The wiki says that this is a relative. We know that the show is set in the present, meaning someone born in 1944 would be about 80 years old right now. So it's possible that this was her mother's medical wristband, and these are maybe the breathing tubes that aided whatever ailment her mother had when she died. It is technically possible that Miss Cobel is 80. This is a weird show, and extending one's lifespan isn't exactly out of the wheelhouse with some of the other far weirder underlying themes that we have going on here. Looking at you again, the graves leading to Lumon houses. But really, we just don't know right now. On further review, after I finished writing the script, I want to point out that this is an adult wristband. If I had to wager a guess, now considering pregnancy as such a massive part of this episode, which you will learn about later, I wonder if this is subtly telling us that Harmony Cobel was born on this day, and this was her mother's wristband from when she passed away while giving birth to Harmony. It's morbid, I know, but finish the video and tell me that doesn't align. The amount of ribbons and awards that we see makes me think that this school was really about competing for something, to prove that you were better than everybody else there, like you were a part of secret Hitler youth camp. Her being in management now makes me believe that that is directly because she went through this program as a young girl and not because she climbed the severed ranks at Lumon until they let her exist without severance or something. I don't think that would ever happen in this world. I'm assuming all of the management had similar upbringings in this entire town, owned and influenced by the Egan family. The 7th annual Carnival being a good reminder of their power in this space. After pumping up the exposure on these scenes, I realized that some summer camp art still hangs on her walls. It's the virtues and their little scenes that likely relate to the tales that they use to teach children about them, if I just had to guess. Like, these are the little moral tales that deconstruct the larger picture so that children can digest what it means to be virtuous or something. The intro then plays and we see Mark searching for the phone in his basement. The phone's eternal battery life and ability to be called 1,000,000 times by a blocked number continues to haunt him. The subtle beating heart sound joins the music as he searches, reinforcing this telltale heart moment. As he leaves for work, he makes these 2 incredible tosses of the phone and its separated battery to put an end to his torture. If I forever cite him as having superhuman abilities, this is why. I mean, I can make this shot, all right? I just know my roommates, Brandon and Justin, could not. That's all I want to say. We then see Burt and Irving in their secret garden, Burt offering this place that he found as a secret that they could keep together. It's beautiful. The moment is timid. 2 beating hearts seeking each other's rhythm, worried if people heard, they would scoff at the sound. Burt wants to explore. He wants to be romantic and kiss Irving, but Irving is just not ready. The handbook is clear in these moments, and finally he sets his boundary.
I'm just not ready. I'm sorry.
It's really interesting that Burt is the one able to read between the lines of the handbook, basically able to find justification for every deed his higher-ups would deem wrong. I think this is because he's older and has been exposed to the different versions of the handbook as it went from the word of Kier to something that would better let Lumon control their workers. And we talked about this in a few videos prior about how dangerous this thinking could actually be inside of this kind of workplace. He then accepts Irving's refusal and offers instead something that they would both enjoy in that moment.
Stay here with me.
We then see Mama Devon taking her baby for a little snow-filled walk, which I guess is something that you do. She then runs into Gabby, the woman from the birthing retreat, and this is when things get weird and wonderful.
Looks like we both made it through.
Oh, hello.
So, I wanted to talk about this in my last video, and here we are. This woman, severed. 100% severed to give birth, or perhaps for the entire pregnancy, we don't really know. Meaning that there could be a reality where a version of this woman only gives birth. Her entire existence is being pregnant and birth. Like, oh my God. The implications are freaking astronomical. People that can't afford it are able to sever themselves for any reasons that they see fit. You don't want kids, but your husband wants a legacy? Well, get knocked up and then jump into the moment where you are all healed up nursing your brand new baby. It's even more damning because they frame him as the leader of this family, ordering them to leave without a conversation, and really just makes it look like she's a baby factory for his needs. We also learn later that he is a senator. She is most likely perfectly fine with this setup because that's kind of the point of Severance. Severance is that you have to consent to the procedure, but it's wild. And again, there is some ethical thing there where we discuss if you can ever actually consent to something you don't fully understand, like the severance procedure and all of the ways that it could be used against you after you sign over, your rights, after you sign the deal with the devil, so to speak. This is no longer just about having control over someone's work life. You could theoretically go in either direction as well. What if you could consent to turn your brain off for the first hour of being home and you would never have to clean your own home again? I'll be honest, I'll take the deal in a heartbeat. Sign me up. I don't care about the ethics anymore. The set rule was that this only happens at work, and now that that rule is gone, someone has to sit at your bar and drink if you make a bar. So tweaking some of the character traits so a worker of yours is more inclined to drink after work, it just makes sense. It's good business. Also, let's not forget that they follow Machiavellian logic, and the ends of a productive business is worth the means of torturing your workers with stories and pictures of violence and gore. So we can't let Pips go out of business. We better adjust Mark's drinking habits to keep the economy and all of the other Egan businesses up and running. That way, the one that he actually works at does well as well. He agreed to the procedure. After all, Lumon can't go under. Think about how bad Mark's life would be without our help. We must kill his wife in order to drive ether consumption back into America. I'm losing my point. Oh wait, Lumon is no longer playing the Sims 4 Get to Work expansion. They are playing The Sims, working on the entire base game and trying to control the entire town if they have the APM for it. They would entirely move to SimCity after this, but video game analogies aside, the point of all of this is that this isn't just Severance being involved in a rich woman's pregnancy. Severance being outside of the workplace is massive, and it relating to the control or the possible control of the human population is a slippery slope. Let's also not forget that they set their scopes on bettering the entire world when we were watching them tour the Perpetuity Wing, and the break room apology makes their actions directly harmful to the whole of the world, as if to say whatever they are working on is for the entire world. The implications of this tiny moment, while mixed in with everything else that we've learned so far, creates a damning picture, but I guess we will just have to wait and find out.
What in the fuckity fuck?
What does camaraderie mean?
This excerpt from Rickon starts off pretty ridiculous, but it ends by just reading the definition of camaraderie and telling Mark that he needs to reach out a loving hand. I'm curious how Mark is reading that because, to be honest, loving hand is fully friend coded, but from that perspective of someone who lacks real world context, he may be reading this as a literal loving hand.
We should return to O&D immediately.
Irving wants to venture in order to start the perfect interconnected workforce that Kier has always dreamed of, and Helly wants to go to continue the mapping project that she just agreed to help Mark with.
To be clear, I do not approve of mapping.
Right. Helly brings up going on another mental health walk with Mark, and he brings up the amount of work that they have left to do. Then Helly starts mocking him, and they start making kind eyes at each other.
You fraternizing too?
This happening directly after Mark reads this passage from Rickon about lending a loving hand feels so purposeful to me.
It's ridiculous. I smile all the time.
Hey there. What are you all talking about?
They quickly unify behind a lie, telling Mr. Milchick that they are discussing Miss Casey. That's when they realize that they don't know where she is.
Miss Casey was told to supervise Helly, and she failed at that task.
Because I snuck Helly out.
Miss Cobel reveals that Miss Casey is in trouble for Mark's action, and he tries to affirm they only went for a walk. Miss Cobel turns the screen around in this big gotcha moment, the recording already ready to go, and wants Mark to know he needs to keep himself and his team focused on the work. Mark wants to show more compassion to Helly as she almost died the other day, and Miss Cobel pushes him. Mark pushes back in a subtle act of defiance, asking directly what they do in MDR if it is so important. Miss Cobel kindly lets him know.
We serve Kier, you child!
We then return to macro data refinement and see Helly drawing this lamp. I don't know why. I don't think this is ever explained. It could also be telling us that she has a bright idea, like a light bulb turning on over someone's head. I don't know. But Dylan then describes how sad he is about Miss Casey no longer being assigned to watch Helly, and we get this line here.
Well, maybe love transcends severance.
You think so?
No.
Yes, 100% yes. By the end of the show, I believe that this will be a core moment that really carries a lot of weight as we explore what it means to be human. Perhaps love for a specific person is like the skill that Helly has for drawing. It's still inside there somewhere, and it does transcend severance, even if we don't fully understand how it works.
What about you and Mark?
What?
Dylan asks the real questions here.
Is baby goats code for sex with my guys?
After a little back and forth between Dylan and Helly about if she has the hots for Mark or not, Mark returns and starts putting his foot down very vocally.
And we're not allowed in the outer hallways anymore till we hit quota. So no more interdepartmental visits.
The entire team is taken back and Irving apologizes. It's an incredibly tense moment and it ends with an upbeat tune starting and Mark asking which way it is to O&D. It feels like he was putting on a show or realized that he didn't want to be the person yelling at his team because his boss yelled at him. He wanted to be the one offering a loving hand.
Milcheck!
I'm on it.
They make their way to O&D with us knowing that management should be close behind, and we see the seemingly never-ending room of optics and design, rows of machines creating something that refiners are curious about. We see E and F columns with 1 through something on, dash something. If I had to guess, it goes 1 through 24 because there are 24 numbers, though it's entirely a guess. They could also go to 300. They also could do A, AA, AAA, AB, you know what I mean? If it's the case, 24 by 24, that would make this 576 machines printing stuff, or theoretically possible to print stuff. And I don't think that means anything right now. I tried looking up that number to see if it had any significance of any kind, but ultimately I'm just adding this so that future me can come back here and be like, hey.
This is more people than I've ever seen.
Same.
And I'm reminded that this is their first time in this place, and Burt wants them to have a conversation with each other, to bond and break the chains that bind them apart from each other, which, if you recall last episode review, is the narrative that each team should fear each other as brought upon by management. So there is good reason that Miss Cobel sent Mr. Milcheck to intervene, and it's curious that he takes so long when we really just see him pop up places, right? Both times that he catches Irving, it's not like he's sent and then has to run across a football field to get there. He just pops into places that he goes, he's efficient, he's quick. And I think that there's a reason that we have the shot of him being sent away and then he allows for an entire conversation, like many minutes to go by before we see him actually come and stop anything.
Go on. Surely you must have some questions for them.
As they talk, we see this inside shot of the machine, and it looks like some kind of 3D printer. And this is a watering can, which, don't ask me, I don't know. It's obscure for the sake of being obscure. And I have nothing for you. Unless you remember that Lumon likely relates to water in some meaningful capacity, and nope, that's all I got. It seems more likely that their work is just busy work with no real target, just management monitoring people as they do or don't do what they are told all day long. And I think the same could be said for MDR. There's a real chance that all of the work is meaningless, and this is just about studying the human condition and its ability to do nonsense. You know what I mean? Like, we don't know that that's not true yet.
Is that a watering can? We think it might be supplies for the executive wing upstairs.
They talk about the items they make and how they change each week, last week's being hatchets, but they also have no idea what anything they create is for or relates to. Burt and Irving, as the old heads most keeping the cogs moving, affirm that the work may not make sense, but it is important just the same.
We keep plugging along. It's important work, obviously.
Everything we do here is important.
It's important because it actually is, or because you're saying it is.
This brings the conversation to a brief halt as the air fills with tension. She said the thing that they dared not say, and Mark jumps in to save the day and really say what's on his mind, offering to work together in order to figure this thing out.
Doing what exactly?
Mark details all the things they don't know about the floor that they work on, about how many departments exist, about the goats that the others might not even believe to be real at this point, and then he leans in further.
Why won't they tell us what we're doing here? The Egan philosophy is illumination above all.
Illumination beyond all.
Then why doesn't that include us?
It feels like he is scared to say these things, and rightfully so. It's blasphemy to all that would disagree and tell management how openly he resists their order to follow. Burt then surprises all of us by vocalizing his support for such egregious claims.
Mark is right.
He is.
He is.
As they talk, Dylan slips away and finds these cards with instructions for a weird dance or some kind of self-defense. They are interesting, and with the scope of last episode and knowing last week they made hatchets, I take this as additional propaganda that that covertly made them fear MDR, as they are wearing green and blue office clothes. Like MDR is blue and optics and design is green, as noted by their badges. Dylan puts a single card in his pocket as Mr. Milchek arrives and takes everybody back to MDR.
Not children, Mr. Milchek. We didn't do anything wrong.
We see Miss Cobel waiting in the MDR room, ready to rap battle Mark in his insubordination.
Key, brilliant one, key.
This was rather unexpected, and she finishes by telling Mark he is going to be held solely responsible for what has happened. She trusted him, and he broke her trust, and there's got to be a price for that.
Escort him to the break room.
After a nice stroll to the break room, Mark sees Miss Casey staring at him from the other end. She is leaving the break room, and he gets to privately tell her sorry that she suffered for his actions last episode.
I'm sorry.
We then see Mark and Alexa eating dinner together on the outside, enjoying a nice conversation about Rickon being eccentric and Devin having lactating issues.
Did you ever think about having kids?
Mark talks about their attempts and their conversations, how they were coming to terms with not being able to conceive children of their own and accepting that adoption was the next best thing. I don't want to read too far into this, as I am a recovering overthinker, but Mark's partner dying after learning they couldn't have children feels kind of odd with the scope of Lumon's possible plans for the future and the world. I don't want to say that they killed her because she could not get pregnant, but if that is ever revealed, I think that they set the framework, if nothing else. Some kind of pregnancy has been going on throughout the entire series since episode 1, and Legacy also being a close behind in terms of screen time. If the couple wasn't viable to have children together and Lumon ended the coupling, it wouldn't be the weirdest thing that we see in the show, and that's really all I'm saying. Not even to mention the mention of severed workers getting pregnant while at work.
And sometimes I think she's not worried about me at all. She's just pissed that she's dead.
Alexa does a really good job of making Mark feel okay talking about this big part of his life that was his love for his ex-wife, even though it's a bit awkward while on their date. The scene changes to Devin in this large glass house, which really makes me wonder about their income and where this money is coming from and why they found issue with the larger lodge at the birthing retreat. I live in an apartment. You have a glass house, like non-metaphorically. What do either of them do for money? I'm pretty sure that Rickon had some inheritance from his parents or something, but I really don't know. We see Devin doing some research on the severed woman that she saw at the park and the birthing retreat and see that her husband is the senator.
Angelo Arteta.
He is a senator of the fictional PE state, and apparently they are becoming a bit of a celebrity couple around these parts. He just recently ran a re-election campaign and won, this page highlighting a black tie affair with campaign donors. I firmly believe this is telling us that he is corrupt and Lumon is lining his pockets in order to pass legislation that will let them do what they want to do, while also having people on the inside that will fight the states actively resisting the procedure entirely. This here highlighting again the scope of Lumon's plans. It's about society being benefited, not their company doing well.
Love?
Yeah.
Rickon introduces Mark's neighbor, Mrs. Silvig, though we know that her name is actually Miss Cobel. I find it hard to believe that this goat head doesn't relate to Lumon and the goats, but I guess we'll just have to wait and find out.
Mark mentioned you were looking for someone.
So serendipitous.
I know.
The kelp worked.
You had a vaginal birth, yes?
Oh, yeah.
We should talk about different nursing positions. Oh,
Miss Cobel asking this feels so wrong. I don't know anything about the birthing process other than the basics, right? But she throws out this question and then discusses nursing options as if to quickly move past this as a normal question. Are there issues with lactation if you have a C-section? I've never heard of this. Does this relate to anything at all in terms of nursing, or was this just a weird way to make sure that Devin was capable of quote unquote normal natural birth? I could be reading too far into this, but I feel like there is some hidden meaning when you ask someone in any situation if they had a normal birth or not, a natural birth or not, unless someone tells me that there are some lactation benefits in the comments here.
you had a vaginal birth, yes?
I will forever feel like she is actually sizing Devin up in some kind of way. Or maybe if the theory about Miss Cobel's mother dying during her birth is true, this was a way for her to ask the morbid questions that she wants to know without causing any kind of alarm.
Oh, don't be sorry. That's what babies do. May I?
We then see Dylan's child counting in front of the TV and Dylan being woken up at home. Oh my God, what a moment. He is there looking for the card that Dylan took from O&D and says this.
Listen, you have no idea how sensitive this information is.
And I don't exactly know why it's so important that this remote start functionality needed to be revealed to Dylan, but here we are. And then this happens.
Daddy! Daddy!
What the fuck?
Again, oh my God. The implications are wild. Like, what is going on in Dylan's life that he is willing to forget about his children for 8 hours a day? Is the paycheck really worth that? Is he a single dad since Mr. Milchek told him to sit in the living room and count to 1,000 instead of go hang out with your mom for a little bit? Does the lack of a mother figure after she successfully gave Dylan offspring also say something similar? I cannot stop thinking about this pregnancy thing, and I think the fact that you don't show the mom in this scene is a purposeful thing. It feels connected to everything now. Also, let's not forget the implications of a remote severance switch being possible. Like, massive. Who is to say that they couldn't just do this every single night or whenever they wanted to? Like, imagine 1 hour into REM sleep, they make the person get up and farm Dogecoin or something.
End it. We good here?
Mark and Alexa get ready to wrap the night up, and Mark sees a poster for June, Petey's daughter, performing in a band. It is a punk rock event hosted in an alley, and the main theme of the night is Frick Lumon. It's wild to see so many having an adverse reaction to Lumon and having bad stories that they could write songs about, and it ultimately leads to June having a brief conversation with the two of them. Mark tries to offer some nice words, but is ultimately shot down.
Your dad would have really liked it, I bet.
Really?
Yeah.
How the fuck would you even know that?
A fight breaks out, and they take that as their sign to leave, leading to a little kissy kiss away from the chaos. We then see Mr. Grainer knocking on Miss Cobel's front door.
What the fuck are you wearing?
They discuss his attempts to track down Reghabi and a tip he got from a local campus cop. Someone has been hiding in one of their science rooms, and the dean is making everybody stay quiet about it. Mr. Grainer invites Miss Cobel to join the takedown, and she adamantly declines.
So, you're like a nurse or something?
Mark sees the image of Petey dropping again, and this causes him to go digging through the trash and reassembling the phone. He leaves Alexa behind in his bed and immediately gets another call from a blocked number. This time, he answers.
Is this Mark Scout?
They discuss him wanting to know more information about what happened to Petey, and after a tense couple of moments trying to figure out what he could or couldn't say, they ultimately decide to meet up. We see a montage of him walking through different locations until he eventually gets to the college, while the security measures at the Lumon building are being buffed up. We then see Mr. Grainer in one of the final shots following close behind Mark.
Are you alone?
This is when we meet Reghabi, the woman that Mr. Grainer has been hunting for, and the woman that helped Petey get reintegrated.
Come with me.
But with that, we come to the end of the episode. Man, oh man, it is getting so good. The tension is building, the larger themes are manifesting, the creepy giant corporation chaos is all consuming, and Miss Cobel is doing everything she can to keep her sheep in order. Mr. Milchek continues doing things that puzzle me, and the book maintains its influence over Mark and the others who read it in a room that is imprisoning and monitoring them. I cannot wait to talk about the crazy stuff that comes up next. I also cannot wait to further inspect this concept of pregnancy and lineage and maybe genetic altering and eugenic selection, as this continues to be a theme that they want us to consider. Maybe not so abundantly clear, but after we get in here and after we analyze it, the breadcrumbs are everywhere, and I feel like I want to know why. Much love, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to my Patreon supporters. Also, how about the first Dune Prophecy episode? I thought it was pretty good. There's some wild stuff happening in there. I did say that I was going to cover it, but I don't have a boss, right? So unless there's a bunch of people in these comments that are asking for it, I might not, or I might just do shorts about it or different theories. I don't really know. Also, how about Arcane? Are y'all watching Arcane? Arcane is incredible. The other night, I sobbed. Season 2, episode 6. I sobbed like a tiny baby who could not accept that his will over the world was not going to happen. God, it was so good. But ultimately, besides the point, Severance episode 7 is next, and we only have a couple months until season 2. Rejoice, praise Kier, all that goodness. Much love, everybody, and I cannot wait to talk to you all again soon.